What's up, family? What's up? Welcome to Positive Power Double Side Christian Media. We're celebrating 7 years in media, and that includes radio, television, and film. And we do some other, live events as well. But I wanted to talk a little bit about persevering through the storms, triumphs, and one of the people that was able to help Positive Power be what it is today is this young lady right here, Paula G, the voice from Atlanta, Georgia. What's up, Paula G? Welcome to Positive Power. How you doing?
I am wonderful. I woke up this morning. Hey, Jerry Royce live worldwide. What's going on?
Feeling good to be in this position right now.
Yes,
Despite what's going on in the world, and that's
I
what
know.
that's what we're here to talk about on this short segment of
Mhm,
Positive Power. One of the things I want to talk about to you, because I know you've been in radio, you've been doing TV,
mhm.
you're very instrumental in us getting into TV and getting on the air. So we wanted to talk about you persevering because it wasn't always sunny days,
Mm,
through the 7 years.
mhm,
You was with another radio network,
mhm.
and then we hooked up together to do a visual show on Facebook Live, and of course we went through our ups and downs with that because it was a learning curve. Not a
Yeah.
lot of people was
Uh-huh.
doing broadcasting, live broadcasting like that. So we know you start out with another network. Start where you
Mhm.
want to, and we want to hear the good and the bad because we want to encourage people to never to
Mhm.
give up. Because I don't feel like I'm super successful, but I feel
Okay.
like I'm successful enough to what I asked for from God. I know what I wanted, and He
Right.
got me here.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a bit of success. A lot of people always mention success in a lot of money. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
so we're not going to put the dollar signs on. We're just going to put the fact that we're still here. Okay, 'cause a
Yes,
lot of people aren't.
they aren't.
Living,
They
breathing,
are.
or just existing. So tell
Mhm.
us about your dark days and your good days.
Oh
And
gosh, as you were talking, so much was going through my head. So I'm trying to think, okay, how can I chronologically share all this? First of all, and I'm just going to go with it. First of all, I think there's something significant. I don't think, I know there's something significant about the number seven. We all know that,
yeah,
right? It's the number of completion. So the fact that we're having this conversation after Positive Power has been on air for 7 years is a testimony within itself that everything that I've been through and everything that you have been through, we have come to the point of completion of this particular phase, moving forward in year 8, new beginnings,
hmm
looking forward to those new beginnings. And, something you and I were talking about earlier was perseverance. The thing about this journey of life, this journey of walking in the gifts and talents that God has given us while we're
yeah,
juggling this journey called life, is the perseverance, is the consistency, the longevity, and those are
right.
things that I've been fortunate enough to have instilled in me early on. You mentioned, at the top of the conversation, my mentor and working with another network. Those are some of the things that he shared with me when we first started talking about doing radio.
hmm
And I always, anytime I start a venture, I always ask the person, what are their expectations? And I think some point along the journey, I had asked you, what are your expectations? And when I started working with Clark on Survival Radio Network, I had asked him what were his expectations, and those are things that have stuck with me. Commitment. Before you start this journey, you have to make a commitment. His platform and yours too is a platform of, this is a career. This is a life goal. You're looking at longevity, you're looking at legacy. So I remember him telling me, if you're wanting to do a radio show and it's as a hobby, this is not the place for you.
Right, exactly.
This is not the place for you. It's just a whim, something you just want to check off your bucket list. This is not the place.
hmm
If you're coming on board, you're coming on and you're making a commitment, because as you build an audience, they expect to see you or hear you, see or hear you, depending on radio or television, that particular day, in that particular time,
Yes.
because you're building, you're building that audience. So if you're kind of, fickle and flighty and back and forth, you're not going to gain that loyalty, that consistency, that commitment, and you're not going to last long.
That's right.
So for me, it was the commitment in the beginning, which meant I had to persevere, and I had to endure a lot of different, challenges. I always open my journey with,
Mhm.
juggling this journey called life while walking in the gifts and talents that God has given us.
Right.
And that's part of it. That whole perseverance thing, Jerry, that you
It
were
is.
talking about. We all have life that is occurring, and the current season that we're in, we're just hit with so many things between this pandemic, our political environment, the personal things that we are all going through,
Mhm.
yet we all still have to stay focused. Today is a perfect example for me. This particular season right now is a perfect example for me in which I have endured a lot of personal loss.
Yes,
So
yes.
I've had to juggle my grief with continuing to do what it is that I'm purposed to do with radio and with television. And it's not an easy journey. And I think I remember sharing a while ago about something that I was told by an agent years ago when I did a little modeling years and
Mhm.
years and years and years and years ago. And it's something that he said that stuck with me. He said, "What you do on the runway is 10% of this
Mhm.
whole business. The other 90% is behind the scenes."
Yeah.
And you and I go back to, I mean, everyone looks at you now and they're like, you know, doggone Batman, you've got radio shows, you've got TV shows, you're successful, you're thriving. I mean, you up there with the big boys. You are just doing it. And
Praise God.
yes, and to, like, to everyone looking, they might think that, oh, it just dropped in your lap, a
Mhm.
couple years ago, but they don't know the journey. You remember those late nights at what, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, man, that learning curve, boy. Television.
Yes, that learning curve, and navigating and figuring out how to make everything gel and how to make everything work. That took patience, that took perseverance in doing that, and being where it is that you are today. And I think we could probably look back, we're not going to mention any names, but we can probably look back and think about or recall some radio shows, radio stations that were um, on air when we first started or when you first
That's
started,
right, yeah.
but are no longer there for, for whatever reason, are no longer there. It
Mhm.
speaks to perseverance in this journey, and what it is, that we do. And for me, it really has been life changing. A lot of times people that have known me years ago, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Paul, you seem like such a different, well, not seem, you are such a different person from who it is that you were." And I truly, truly went through a transformation, went through a change, asking God to open doors of opportunity, give me the wisdom, discernment to recognize those doors when they opened,
That's right.
and then the courage to walk through those doors. And anything that we do in life, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, right? Anything that we do in life, we have to be patient, we have to persevere, and we have to keep our eye on, the as my friend Chloe Taylor Brown says, the big life game. The big the big, the big vision, the big dream, and realizing that as we take that journey, and you and I have taken this journey with radio and with television. As we've taken that journey, we've started out in one direction,
Mhm.
but maybe had to make a detour, or move in another direction because something has changed. And I mean, look at the connection, because I started, as you were talking, I was thinking about, we met through, I think it was Joyce White.
Right, through Joyce, because Joyce and Charles was doing a show together, and I know
Yeah.
Charles.
Yes.
So there
Yes.
was an introduction with him and Joyce. Yep.
Right. So you had me on your show, And then I believe, if, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you had me on your show. And then I don't know, a while later, you had indicated you were looking for a co-host for the late night show. You remember that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll give it a shot because I was already doing, I was already doing my Wednesday night show, and I'm like, okay, well this will work because I'm on a different night, different network, so it'll work. And we did the Facebook Live, so we had to figure all that out, and you had to walk me through all of that, with the camera and the mics and
Yep.
you know, Jerry was good for telling you to go to YouTube and look. I'm just telling y'all, okay? If you come on
Yeah,
board,
man.
he's gonna tell you. It's like Jerry, how do you hook up this camera? How do you hook up this mic? He'll send you a link to YouTube. It's
I
like
used
I
to
don't want to look
feel
at the
like
video.
that all the time.
Tell me. I
Yeah.
don't want to look at this video. Just tell me.
I always feel like it burns in your memory when you actually see somebody do it, opposed to
Right,
somebody
right.
telling you how to do it.
Yeah,
Ask the
yeah.
same question over and over again.
Over.
You can just sit there and look at the video as long as you know
Right.
you did it right.
Rewind, rewind,
That's right.
rewind. But just the trial and error, the trial and error, trial and error. I mean, that's unlimited,
Yeah.
as you're going through the process and perfecting things and changing things. And then as technology changes, having to navigate that. I mean, look what the platform that we had to change from doing the show in the studio to now doing it
Yeah.
virtually.
That's right. Way to go with the times.
Yeah, yeah,
Everybody's on this, like I'm hearing now, and a lot of people are saying all of us on the same playing ground. I mean, I know
yeah.
you said it too, the same playing
Mhm.
field.
Mhm.
You're hearing it from everybody now. It's like everybody's doing this, playing with the same hardware.
Yes.
It's all computerized,
Yeah.
microphones. Everything has
Yeah.
went to another level. And then what people don't understand, a lot of this technology has always been around. It just that it was so expensive. And
Yes.
like for example, this is a broadcast television microphone. Of course,
Mm.
we started out with the little lav mics off of Amazon,
Yeah.
and we got exactly what what it costs.
Right.
Eventually the thing don't work no more. And
Right.
you won't realize until it's time to edit. So then that's when you
Like,
start talking
oh.
about, people hear this all the time, sow into your own, your own
You.
ministry or your
Mhm.
own business. You got to start investing in yourself because people want
Yeah.
to invest in you like you invest in yourself. Once they see how you
Mhm.
invest in yourself, and that's what made me invest in you.
Mhm.
So how much you invested into Survival Radio and how much
Right.
Clark has mentored you. You can see the professionalism was in that
Yes.
mentoring. So that's
Yeah.
what God led me to you. He said, and I used to listen to Wayne Dwyer all the time. He always said,
Mm.
you're not in this by yourself. You can't do everything. I remember
Right.
listening to Earl Graves when he used to say in his book, and even when he used to do television show, he said, go into
Mhm.
something you can do that God gifted you with, that no
Mhm.
matter how long you do it or how hard it gets, you still gonna feel good about it at the end of the day, even if you don't get a paycheck for it. You know,
Yes. Yes.
you got to
Yeah.
want to wake up and enjoy it just like as much as you did yesterday. So that's why I
Mhm.
always tell people don't go in anything that's not naturally you because it's going to be frustrating if you don't meet the right
Yeah.
people, if the connections don't happen. People always say stuff fall out of the sky. Uh, for me, my
Mhm.
dad, he sold into me first. He said, look, I want you to go to electronic school and learn how to fix stuff. I was like, I don't
Mhm.
want to fix nothing. I don't want to get my hands dirty, reaching those little small hot. I wanted to go to radio broadcasting school. That was my whole thing. I wanted to
Right.
be on the radio, or whether it
Mhm.
was engineering or the talent. But he was
Right.
like, no. Then his thing was, no, nobody's leaving the state of Maryland. I was like, what's in DC? He didn't count DC being part of Maryland.
Right. Right.
So I had to go to the community school, not knowing that that school had everything.
That you needed.
See, everything you see today, whether it was television broadcasting, the
Uh-huh.
Comcast was set up there, and part of their partnership with the school was to train the children and the students in studio. And then I
Yes.
took graphic design. That's when the Macs came out and the PCs was getting better.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I was able to learn how to do editing,
Mhm.
camera studio production. Got a chance to
Mhm.
really see it firsthand. Went to a lot of the television studios,
Mhm.
worked behind the scenes. Channel 2. It was Channel 13, Television Hill.
Yeah. Oh, I
Yeah, it was all
remember.
over the place. I got a chance to go to WOLB with
Yeah.
Kathy Hughes with Radio One. We
Mhm.
actually was on air talent, working with some of the on air talent as well as the producer. So my brother and I got a chance to see all of this stuff. We worked on a dance show. up
Mhm.
in DC. He actually, we both were cast for it, but my own purpose there, well, I wanted to see how they was gonna put this thing together. That was my whole
Right.
purpose. I learned enough
Right.
how to dance just to be on the show, to
Uh-huh.
see all of that. You know, got a chance to
Right.
work with models and dancers and online talent. So God
Mhm.
exposed a lot of that stuff to me very early on, between 17 and 20, 21, 24, something like that.
Yeah.
Because even with when my dad sent me to the school, not only did I get the electronic technology, because I was actually in there with the veterans. A lot of the veterans, you know, back then, remember
Mm.
they had the GI Bill. So those guys
Yes.
were mostly, that's why that program wasn't that fun to me, because I'm in there with older guys, you know, that didn't
Mhm.
have no real
Mhm.
personality, act like
Mm.
they were still on base, you know.
Mhm.
So I
I'm
ain't had no
sorry. And
fun.
vet, yeah.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
my cousin was in class with me. He was
Mhm.
planning on going to the Navy after he finished that program. So here I am, had three majors in community college,
Uh-huh.
and just taking everything, you
Yeah.
know, even
Taking it all in.
psychology. Yeah, I was taking
Yeah.
psychology, wanting to understand how people think,
Mhm.
and eventually they came to a point where they said it's time for you to graduate. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
got my
And that's
20 credits, came out,
mhm.
and went on to the next school, which was even more important than this one, because that's when the internet was starting to come around. I was actually
Mhm.
working for a publishing company at the time, and they was actually uh, we used to take our files that we used to make books. We used to make books, publish books.
Mm.
So they
I remember you shared that with me.
right,
Yeah.
and they put the books on a tape, and so we
Mhm.
can take it to the printer so the guys can print it, from the tape. So
Right.
when the internet came along, we no longer had to worry about driving all the way to the other plant.
Mm.
The internet was moving the files. So that was like,
Mhm.
wow. So that's when we was really starting to see the front of the technology was right then and there. So that's
Yeah.
why all this came relatively easy for me, because
Mhm.
eventually, once the PCs and the Macs were able to communicate with one another through USB,
Yes.
all the devices can plug into the computer. They kind of made things a little easier for the broadcasting world as
And
well.
I think, too, the thing that I also recognize about you is that you have that technical side. You just shared that with us. You have that technical side, but you also have the vision. Usually most people, it's what is it, left side of the brain, the right side of the
Mhm.
brain. Some have the technical side, some are the visionaries. You have the vision because I remember you reaching out and sharing with me the season when God was talking to you, God was speaking to you about a television show. You remember
Yeah,
that? When he
yeah,
was speaking to you about a television
that was
show,
crazy.
and I remember you shared that with me and what your initial thoughts were on that, what your initial vision was. You had asked me to come on board and do the first season because you were just kind of trying it. Had nowhere to put a television show,
No way, didn't
nowhere to
know.
put it. It was just the vision.
Just following God's words, the
Yes,
message.
and we did that first season, we taped that first season, still, I believe, yeah, still had nowhere to put it.
Yeah, we had like a whole season.
A whole season, and I think you just were sitting on it for a minute,
Mhm.
and, in the meantime, I was developing a relationship with, WATC TV 57 here in the Atlanta
Mhm.
area because I was asked to come on as a guest a
Ah,
couple of
yeah,
times.
yeah.
And then in the course of that, I learned that they were looking to build WATC2 because they have three channels. They have WATC, which is the terrestrial, WATC2, which is the internet, and then WATC3, which is the Hispanic Latino station.
Mhm.
And we developed a conversation. They were looking to build, that internet channel, and
Mhm.
they were looking for TV shows. I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah,
we might have one. We just might have one." And that first season, it's going on, 3 years ago now.
yeah. And there
It's
was a
going
lot
on
we didn't know, because
Yeah.
luckily, because what I remember being working with Comcast in
Mhm,
school, that
mhm.
there was broadcast signals, and then there's that type of
Yes.
signal, but not knowing that because of the way the technology is starting to plug
Uh-huh.
in, that they were able, the internet was actually pretty similar to what they were doing on air, and even
Yes.
with cable. So it was kind of
Mhm.
easy. It wasn't a whole lot of adjustment, as long as you followed that one broadcasting rule that they
Right.
had. So we was
But
kind
even
of, with the frames per second
Mhm.
and all that audio, it was pretty much very similar, because they would, because when we came along, I think that's when everything was meshing anyway.
Mhm.
So it wasn't
Mhm.
like we had to go back and change settings or retape.
Right.
You know, whatever
Right.
YouTube was doing, they were doing because YouTube was
Yeah.
kind of leading the charge anyway. You
Right.
know.
And I think that, that was so, and I'm glad you pointed that out too, because again, talking about behind the scenes and what needs to happen to make it work. People see the show, they see the successful show, and they're like, oh my gosh, look at, it just looks so easy, but
Our
not
first
unknown.
year, yeah,
Yeah.
first season, we was able to really pull it off. Well, you got to look
Yeah.
at how God does things.
Yes.
He took my character, the tech side of it,
Hmm.
vision, and,
Uh-huh.
and that came from my mom said that came from like years ago. She said I was always able to see stuff, like
Oh
even
man.
planning my whole day on Christmas. She said I would plan my whole day.
Visualize it.
I'm going to play with my toys. Which one I'm gonna start with? Which the next, and then everything else
You
would
had an
just be.
order.
Yeah, and this is my morning,
Uh-huh.
because I know what time family's gonna come over, dinner and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
so it kind of started very early.
Hmm.
So then the
Yeah.
next thing was like identifying talent. God
Yeah.
speaking to you like this is a good piece. You always need to know
Yes.
what people, what person is gonna
Hmm.
work what they're doing, because you don't want to take something from someone else and say, hey, stop doing what you're
Mm.
doing and come work with me.
Mm.
You never want to
Mhm.
do that to people. You want to kind of say, you know what, we're kind of doing some of the similar things. Let's
We
work
work together.
together. You know,
Yeah, and we
because
work
because it's
together.
all about marketing and promotion at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true. And then, being that example, setting that example, and, answering those questions about, you
Hmm.
know, uh, perseverance and commitment and so forth. This journey has been and continues to be an example of that. And one other thing I want to share, and I've shared this with you before, and I just want to share this again because I also think it's so huge that all of this also, one of your goals that I see in all of this is leaving a legacy for your family, leaving a legacy for your children. You have built something that your children can carry the torch with, and you've built it within your own home, built it within your own environment. So, you're there, providing for your family, taking care of your family, juggling, being a family man, being a man of God, and then also being a producer, CEO of Positive Power 21, all of those things. And I think that is such a good demonstration. I think you're a great role model
Thank you.
for other, men who are looking to seek their journey, looking to walk in their dreams. This is a dream of yours, and
Yeah, yeah.
but you worked it such that you were able to do it within the confines of your studio, which is a
Mhm.
home base, and still be there for your family. And that's huge. That is that
Yeah,
is
and
that
you
is
never,
huge.
and
You
you
shouldn't be
kind of
taking that
never,
lightly.
yeah, and you kind of never know what life is going to throw at you. For one, for example, who would have known that this pandemic would have happened? Say, for example, I would have went out and rented space for a studio, because I have a
Yeah.
buddy who has done that. He took it out,
Hmm.
he took his business out of his home and put it in his studio.
Right.
Now, because of the size, he can't even really have that many people there at one time. So now they're forced to
Yes.
work at home, and now they have to
Hmm.
take either his equipment or their equipment to make things work. So
Hmm.
luckily, I was able to listen to what God was saying and
Uh-huh.
build on this. Kept it, because one friend almost talked me into not doing the television studio here. I was about to
Wow.
get space for that,
Uh-huh. And
because they
look.
was, you're thinking about how things look to people when you talk about
Right.
a home studio.
Mhm.
So now I'm
Mhm.
able to now. I don't really have talent here no more, but because we moved into children ministry or children television, we're
Yeah.
able to continue that piece of the business.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
because of technology, we're able to do shows like this because everybody's doing
Yes.
it this way. So it's becoming a norm now. Where
Yeah.
before, matter of fact, my former business partner, we had started doing broadcasts like this before too. We had
Mhm.
used this technology before, and it worked. The only reason why we got away from it,
Mhm.
because she was looking at other different things to do, and her business started picking up in other directions,
Right.
something else she was doing before.
Yes.
But at least I knew. And then when you
Mhm.
and I picked it up, because the
Mhm.
technology was starting to get there, just that the hardware and the software still really wasn't quite gelling. But the
Yes.
company was telling me that they actually built the system they can manage their technology. It was like, yeah, y'all need to work with what we have, man. I ain't paying $3,000 for no computer, you know.
Mhm.
So y'all can
Yeah.
change something else up again. I know I've been
Right.
doing this too long
R
to know that trap. So
Yeah.
going back to where you were about the legacy, when you was talking
Mhm.
about the legacy,
Mhm.
I remember a real quick story because I know we got to get out of here.
Mhm.
I remember my dad's family owned oil trucks. They were pretty
Mhm.
wealthy. I mean, my aunts, my great aunts wore furs everywhere they went. They owned big cars and they big homes in
Right.
Baltimore. Not just one, they had three. And I remember, but they didn't have any of their own children, so they
Mm.
adopted these kids, right? And
Yeah.
became part of the family. I remember those kids ran their business into the ground because they really wasn't
Oh,
doing right. They really wasn't taking the trucks where they supposed to
yeah.
be. You know, 'cause they
Mhm.
was depending on them to drive the trucks. And I
Yeah.
guess it was other family members too. I don't remember exactly how many trucks,
Mhm.
but as technology started changing from people having oil burners in their home to gas, that started changing things for to make the
Yes.
family business, but they weren't prepared for
Transportation.
that. They just looked at it. They were wealthy, money was flowing, but as soon as the kids was messing up the money, and because they weren't really that
Just
interested in the
blowing in the
business.
wind.
Yeah, they weren't really interested in the business. They just did it because it was a job that helped them
Mhm.
do whatever outside activities they wanted to do. So when I
Right.
look at this business, I'm not really sure. You know, of course, my two sons, my oldest
Mhm.
son graduated in media
Mhm.
communication, and my youngest boy is in studying media right now, and my baby
Yeah.
girl studying psychology, but she's in front of the camera as well. But who
Uh-huh.
knows how long they're going to do that for daddy? You know, eventually they might, just like my oldest boy, he works in that field, but on
Mhm.
his side business, he likes dealing with
Mhm.
men grooming products now. Now he's into not just apparel, but
Ah.
he sell products for the men's beard because it's trending right now. Men need to take care of their beards like they take care of their hair.
Right.
And so that's his new business. So he don't say he didn't he comes in to help us when we need him. But the
Mhm.
bottom line, you know, but what I felt like I gave him was, and my mom talked about it all the time about my daughter. She said, well, what you gave them is that entrepreneur spirit. She said, a
Yes.
lot of us been so long we depend on that one job to do everything
Mhm.
for us. And the time
Mhm.
you spent on that job would have been the time you could have owned 2 or 3 businesses. And they could
Yeah.
be working themselves with the help of Amazon and all these other online retailers. Anybody
Mhm.
can become a millionaire. I mean, I talked to a young lady who's been in analytics for a long time in digital
Mhm.
media. She has friends that make $10,000 a week selling simple items on
Mm.
Amazon. Yeah, that's
Mm.
how it's made. And even the company that gives Amazon their products, you
Yeah.
can be you can do direct sales with them. And I didn't
Mhm.
know that. So
Mhm.
there's just and my daughter, you know, she not only does she work with me doing this, but she also has her own business. She works with women on wigs. She makes
Mhm.
wigs and she do installs. And the biggest part of her
Mhm.
business is doing the install. You know, who have known that? And she set up shop, you know, wherever she's going to school because this is her second college.
Right.
Um, and then my baby boy, he's we haven't really quite figured him out yet where he really goes, you know, where he want to
Uh-huh.
go, um, because he's still young. He's just turned 18. But
Mhm.
him and I working on a project together because he can draw really well. So now
Yeah.
we're looking at adding another piece to our company because you know when you look at it when you do these kind of things, it's considered publishing. So him
Yes.
and I are looking at doing a series together with the puppets. So we're going to be adding on because my family used to own a book publishing business before. So we used to do book publishing 24/7,
Right.
and we worked in the medical publishing. My dad actually retired as a medical publisher. So
Mhm.
we're going to add another piece of that with the Ski Jones puppet ministry. So
Mhm.
and live events. So that's going to become live events. That's going to be television. That's going to be
Mhm.
maybe a short film, and it's
Mhm.
going to become books. We're working with storytellers right now. That's going to be another big piece of what we're going to be doing is storytelling. A lot of people understand a lot of these people who have published stuff years ago,
Yes.
it becomes public domain after a while. So people are familiar with a lot of these nursery rhymes. So me and my daughter, we're actually producing singles now of nursery rhymes, but we're putting dance tracks on it. So we're working with a
Ah.
company over in
See?
Johannesburg
Mhm.
that's doing the mastering for us. So she already has 3 songs out. One video came out already. We're ready to produce 2 more videos, hopefully before she go back to school. So that's some
Right.
of the things I'm doing with them. She likes to sing and dance.
Yeah.
So,
So you're passing on
right.
that entrepreneurial spirit, and that is so important that you said that, because I think, our generation was raised to go to school, to work
Mhm.
20 years for somebody else. And, even though we are of that generation, you still had that entrepreneurial spirit because you came from that entrepreneurial spirit. So I think that's so important,
You
and
know,
that's part of the legacy.
that was actually in our family blood because I was just listening to a video just the other day. I sent to Brandon. I think I sent it to
Uh-huh.
you. How
Mhm.
how they say the poor get poorer and the rich get richer. It's
Yeah,
because the richer, they understand about the different streams of income. They've been taught that for many years from their
the
great great
mindset.
grandparents. Right.
Mhm,
And see, my great grandfather, and this is like history that my father really just started sharing, that my
mhm.
great grandfather, he actually owned like over 500 acres of land, but he divvied it out to the family members because in
Wow.
Maryland, you couldn't vote unless you own land. So that was some of the reasons why a lot of landowners started giving properties
Interesting.
away to, right.
Mhm,
That was very
mhm.
popular in Maryland. So,
Yeah.
so a lot of the landowners that were black got rid of a lot of their land by giving it to
Mhm,
family members. But of course, when
mhm.
we don't understand, how to set up a will and
Mm,
how to, set up our inheritance to fall down to
mhm.
particular family members, and what happens, it falls under the state
The
laws, and next
state
thing you know, the developers
is
take it
gone.
from your family
Yeah.
because you got like 20, 30 people who own a
Mhm,
piece of that land that's part of that
mhm,
family blood. So,
mhm,
what I found out later on, that my great grandfather had, that's how my grandfather had gotten the land he was on to have a farm. But then my
mm.
dad and his brother didn't get it set up in their name, and they lost it to their stepmother, who
Yeah,
in turn gave it to my father's adopted brother,
right,
and he was on
right.
drugs and stuff really bad. So we ended up losing the property to my stepmother's family. Her sister
Mm,
ended up and brother ended up getting it. So
mm.
we lost that,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah,
really great land in
right.
Maryland,
Mhm.
really good
But you
property.
but but you still carry that entrepreneurial
Right,
spirit,
that was the thing we
and
inherited. We still got that, even though we didn't get the
and then
land behind it, but we did get that
mhm, and your
spirit.
children have it.
Yeah.
Yes, your children have
And
it as
then
well.
teaching it to them, because you still have to talk about it, let them
You
see
do.
it. And my daughter seems like she really feels good about it when she's able to. I say, I said, it's great to have a job, but just
Mhm.
think about it. When you that job is seasonal. Now you gotta go back to school because you don't want to work while you're in school. You never want to work while you're in school. But having that side business is not a bad thing, because they only maybe take maybe an
Mhm.
hour or two of your job. The other times you're promoting the business because the other people are going to promote that through word of mouth. And that's
Right.
basically how her business is growing, through word of
Mhm.
mouth. And my
Mhm.
mom was always fascinated. My mom actually owned a business too. When she I heard on the job, she had to retire a little earlier at
Mhm.
the age of 52.
Mhm.
So she ended up going into business for herself, and she did that for a number of years too, doing
Yeah.
consulting work and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
education
mean,
consulting.
this is, this journey that I've been on with you in Positive Power just has been a wonderful, amazing journey, from starting the late night podcast and working through that to perfect that, to um, the after hours show that we did, our 11:30
Yep, Christian
show,
party
and
line.
Christian Party Line with Shay Samuels and Lakeisha,
Yep,
and
Kelly
Chanel
Howland and
Cannell. Yeah,
Shalonda,
yeah,
V
Shalonda,
Speak Life.
Monique,
Yep,
yes.
yep, that's
You
the crew,
know,
the Atlanta
yeah.
crew and the Maryland crew.
Yes, that Atlanta crew that helped with my journey, and then doing the Monday night show, co-hosting the Monday night show with yourself, and then alternating with Shay Samuels, and then going into our third year with
Yeah.
my journey with Paula G on WATC TV 57. So it indeed has been a journey. I've learned a lot. Being on this platform, I've learned, Clark Garrison, poured so much
Mhm.
into me, but I've also learned a lot from you about the business, about radio, about marketing, branding, all of those things. But it all comes back to perseverance. We are
Conveniences,
here
right.
because of commitment and perseverance, and that is what makes it work. And that is why Positive Power 21 is where it is today. And that's
7
why
years. Right.
Batman is where he is. 7 years going strong, going into year eight. Eight is the number of new beginnings. So, we're looking to see more and great, wonderful things, coming out of the
Man,
Batcave.
that's right. I just say, like I said, Wayne Dwight, I kept listening to him over and over again. And because
Mhm.
sometimes you think you can do everything, you can do as much as you can to get your business off the ground. before you
Yes.
guys start divvying out money to make things work. Of course, you want
Yeah.
to pay
Yeah.
for a good accountant, which we have. You want to make sure you got the hardware. You got to invest in
Mhm.
yourself, people. And this is just to keep you guys encouraged to keep doing what you're doing.
Yes.
I see people jumping around from platform to platform, and sometimes it takes a while to find the right fit. I understand
Right.
that,
Right.
but try to be true to yourself,
Yeah.
and just stay with it. 'Cause one thing I know about not just Black people, but people in business, period, people
Mhm.
don't want to do business with people who jump around a lot. Next thing you know, you're selling donuts.
Right.
Then
Consistency.
you're selling cars.
Uh-huh.
Now you're
Mhm.
selling record
Yeah.
albums. People want to know, okay, we know you're a salesman, but who are
Mhm.
you? People want to know,
Yeah.
who are you? So
Right.
that was one of the most important things I learned about when I got my second degree, is that you have to start out with something and kind of stay true to that. You can build onto it, but don't
Right.
completely go in a complete opposite direction. People
Right.
get
Build from
confused.
where that is.
Yeah,
And you mentioned some, I know we only have a couple of minutes, but you mentioned something, before about, the part of the business and having an accountant. Those things are important. Your accountant, your attorneys, you got to, when you're really serious about that business, like you said, you have to have these people in place, because at the end of the day, perseverance, commitment, but at the end of the day, is business.
that's right. Business is business. That's
Yes.
right. And some people will be seasons. Maybe
Mhm.
they won't go the whole 7 years with you, or 3, or maybe a few
Yeah.
months. But you're still going to get something out of it. It's going to be a learning experience. You're going to find
Yes.
out something more about yourself, the
Mhm.
business you're in,
Mhm.
whatever. And then people are going to learn from you as well. Maybe
Yes.
they're just going to be a student of what you're doing, So
Yes.
respect
Yeah.
that. I don't really expect anybody that's going to be like that loyal that they're going to give their life, but
Uh-huh.
you want the type of loyalty to say, hey, we're
And
building something
commitment.
together.
Right.
Let's stick around
Uh-huh.
for as long as we
Yeah.
can, and build on it.
And I think you have to share that up front, what your expectations
Right.
are. If you're having someone come on board, you have to share up front so
Exactly.
they know up front, and then they can make the decision as to whether or not they want to, take that journey with
That's
you.
right.
So
You gotta
communication.
right. Gotta have some dedication,
Yeah.
and you can't be guessing at what they want
Yeah.
and what they don't want. Look,
Right.
Paul, it's time for us to get out of here. Enjoyed having you
Mwah.
on the
It was a
anniversary of
pleasure.
Positive Power WSI
Woohoo!
Christian Media. And I want to thank my friend Jay Nicole Jones for giving me that double XI. We
Ah,
started out with Positive Power 21, and then we moved
yes.
to double XI.
Mhm.
And of course, a lot go out to Charles D. Clark. Uh,
Yes.
Point us in the right direction. God spoke to him.
And look at Charles. He is just
Yeah,
boom.
growing up.
Mhm, mhm.
Blowing up in the industry.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep growing, y'all. We gotta get out of here. But thank you, Paula G, the voice of America. Take care,
Thank
everybody.
you.
And we see you guys soon. We're gonna have a series of these, y'all. So follow all the series.
Yeah.
Be able to find out all it takes to stay encouraged and to
Mhm.
persevere and to keep doing what God intended for you to do, and that's to build the kingdom. I'm
Build
Jerry
the
Woods
kingdom.
Live Worldwide, aka the Batman of Charm City. Peace, y'all. And have a great year. Cut.
Good. Okay.